Welcome, everybody. Alex Smith here, Chief Revenue Officer at TriAD CTV. Here with Tori, the Director of Creative Design here at TriAD CTV. We're going to wait just a few minutes and small talk a little while a few people are joining. We started about a minute early, so we'll let everybody get on and go from there. Tori is also the Executive Director of Any Design Week, which we're all a part of this week and excited about. Couple of highlights. I know you're going to cover a few things later, but what's going on this week as we kind of sit here and wait for others to join?
Yeah, so we had our kickoff party last night, the All Access. So shout out to anyone on this right now that came. Thanks for hanging out with us in Broad Ripple. Tonight we have our workshop night. It's a brand new event. You can hop around, do roundtable workshops from charcuterie to sneaker art to scent design to improv. We still have some slots open at improv and styling workshops. So if you didn't sign up before the deadline, feel free to still come stop by, hang out with us. We'll have Giacomo's Pizza and the bar will be open all night. So
excellent.
Yeah, plenty of opportunities. And then tomorrow we have First Draft Design Showcase, which is also a brand new event showcasing the Indy 11 logo, how that was developed. A fashion designer will be showcasing some wedding design looks, and also we'll have Ashley Reddington from Officeworks talking about a corporate headquarters renovation. So
excellent.
Lots going on in just the next 2 days, actually.
Yeah, there's something for everybody to get involved with.
Yeah.
And definitely going to be a lot of intriguing, thought-provoking, and learning across industries and across mediums, right, and what people do. So great week, and excited to be part of it and contribute today.
Yeah, and out of curiosity, if any of you guys were on the Delve Design webinar this morning, I was moderating that. Feel free to drop a little emoji if you were on there with Delve. Speaking of crossing industries, they were talking about architecture with the Seth building. So maybe we have some crossover there.
Very cool. Today, we are talking about rewriting the script, how creative teams are changing connected TV or changing television advertising through connected TV. Connected TV, streaming TV is what we do here at TriAD CTV. So wanted to dive into a little bit of that as we kick off, talk a little bit about what connected TV is, how it works, right? We've heard some of these terms with streaming and OTT and connected television, but what does it all mean? And more specifically, what is the opportunity that presents for creative design when it comes to leveraging television? It is our opinion that video in its simplest format, but specifically television, is like the most effective single form of communication to any specific audience, because you have 30 seconds, 15 seconds, a minute, unskippable time to communicate your brand, to communicate your position, to communicate your value, and no other medium do you really get that uninterrupted time in a position where they're setting down and they're comfortable in the comfortability of their own home while they're watching and have the attention scores way up.
Yeah.
So with that, let's dive in, and I have Brendan here helping with us to share screen. If you could pull up the what is connected TV slide on that, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So connected TV really is any internet connected device. So that is going to be the things we naturally think of with a smart TV that's hanging on your wall, but also then any device that's connected. So Roku TV, an Apple TV, the Amazon Fire Stick, anything that's connected in that way, as well as gaming systems. So PlayStation, Xbox. And then beyond that, in the last, let's call it 5 years, the vast majority of cable and satellite boxes are now connected to the internet. So yes, if you have recently gotten DirecTV, you most likely didn't even put a dish up, right? They don't even come and do that any longer because you're accessing that through the internet and through your router. So all of that ends up being connected. And so what the opportunity with that means is the same thing that it meant for, let's say, display advertising 30 years ago, right? So we're all on the design and creative side. Display ads were really exciting, let's call it 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and the local newspaper would sell the banner ad, right? I want to sell the banner ad. So anybody who came to that site, right, it was thinking of it content first. I want to be on Indy Star's website. You'd buy the banner for a month, and anybody who came to that would see that same banner because you bought that. Then it became programmatic to where instead of every audience member, every site viewer seeing that same ad, it would dynamically change based on who you were as an individual and how the advertiser was targeting you. So the same evolution that's happened with display advertising is now happened in very quick form to television. So instead of thinking of television advertising from a content first, hey, I want to be, in the afternoon during Ricky Lake, that dates me a little, or I want to be at the 5 o'clock news, and you buy that ad, and anybody who sees it, now we're able to say, who is the audience member I want to be in front of? And how do I present the ad specifically to the audience, regardless of the content that they're watching? I value being in front of Tori, right?
Yeah.
So let's target Tori and go from there. And from there, that then opens up the massive opportunity to make your creative catered towards the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's as a creative director, that's one of the most exciting things. I feel like I'm brand new to the platform world, ad tech world. I started in editorial design, so started in the print world, still very near to my heart, but times change and everything's very digital now, so moved into the graphic design world, and now I've learned a lot from Alex, from our digital marketers, about connected TV overall. And the exciting part for creatives that I don't think we realize is we can segment so much more. You can really say, like, I want to directly target, 18 to 24-year-old females that love Taylor Swift. And you can directly talk to them in their language in that way. And that really just opens up this world of creative design that we haven't been able to do on TV yet. TV, I think, is the one place everyone's kind of looking for advertising more so than on social and stuff like that. And they're looking to laugh, and they're looking to feel something heartfelt, but they're looking to laugh at jokes they want to laugh at. And so it really comes down to, how do you make that audience laugh, not how do you make every audience laugh. Sure. As long as you're talking to your audience, you're gonna hit it home. And it's one of the best ways to tell your brand story, which I think is one of the most exciting things about it on the creative side for creative teams.
Yeah, we see that time and time again when we work with brands and companies across the country, is when we first start working with them, they still have that very traditional television line of thinking, right? And many times we've talked to very large brands, national home name brands that we all know, and they say, television isn't for us because we really serve a very specific type of customer, right?
Yeah.
And we don't need to broadcast. Brendan, could you pull up that slide that shows traditional versus, there we go, connected. So you see on the traditional side, it used to be you had one ad that had to represent your brand or your product to all the audience, which was typically just a geographic area, right? Indianapolis Metro, or maybe in cable you could get down into zones like a county, but still it's everybody in that geographic area. Now with connected TV, we can build custom audiences based on all sorts of different parameters from the targeting, from online signal behavior to income to job history, current position, affiliations to different organizations that you're a part of, and also past purchase history, brand affinity. So if you're a current, let's say, Macy's customer, or let's say Lowe's hardware customer, right? And all of that information is available to build out very targeted audiences. So now if I'm a brand that wants to run a national ad or even a regional ad, I can very specifically target the individuals that I want to, and maybe skip 20 houses and hit the person. Maybe skip 100 houses and hit the person that you want to target. So now when we have these conversations, it's not, not everybody lives next to whatever location store, or everybody's a buyer of XYZ brand in the Indianapolis market. Let's use us as an example. But now if we could say, no, but here are 15,000 people or 25,000 people in the Indy market that you do want to reach, and you're only paying for the ad to be served to that individual. Now they have all of a sudden the power of television, right? That in-home brand experience, uninterrupted, high attention score, 30 seconds to tell your brand story. And you have the ability to specifically target a qualified individual that you want to be in front of.
Yeah, and really effectively too. I think that's one of the things, I feel like when we talk to clients, one of the really exciting things on the connected TV side is, we're all working within budgets. I think that's one place where we can all agree and resonate. We all wish that every client that came to us had a $5 million budget. That'd be awesome. Most do not. And if they do, they're probably marketing very mass. So actually, connected TV is great. I think that's one of the misunderstandings is that, TV has historically been very expensive and very hard to get into. And this really optimizes your budget and it allows you to have, we always say, zero waste around here. Essentially, you're paying for your audience and that's all you're paying for. You're not paying for, the 5,000 other people that are watching that program that your audience is watching. You're paying for just your audience. So it's really effective. And so then that's where the ROAS and the ROI and all of that comes in, where I think marketers are like, oh, okay, this is great. Yeah, if you have a little bit of budget and maybe you can, up that a little bit if it's going to really return it. But, when you're working within a tight budget, I think connected TV, I think that's just one of the ways that it shines, honestly.
From a creative standpoint, it becomes a lot more fun for creative teams.
Yeah.
Right. Because now all of a sudden you've opened up opportunity. If you were doing television, you had to maintain a very vanilla brand message that you're appealing to everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Now we get to pre-qualify our audience and target them based on their interests, their buying behaviors, and their predicted buying behaviors even, which makes it a lot more fun for the creative team. What types of things do you see, brands doing, our clients doing to really drive that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the brands I've seen recently, we were actually just talking about this, was probably one that a lot of us have seen, but is a good example is Menike. Possibly we've seen based on the demographics that I know Indie Design Week is and the demographics I know they are. So Menike is an auto repair company and they were struggling getting people in the store visits. Another misconception I think a lot of people think with TV is it's not going to help with store visits. And they actually did a direct comparison of CTV, linear TV, and the creative and how they were directly talking to customers. And it's in this deck. We'll share that with you guys. I don't know that the audio is going to play through very well, but CTV blew it out of the water by 180% using the same exact creative too. So I think that's interesting. And also just directly talking to the audience. I know Fiverr has done a lot of stuff directly talking to freelance designers and contractors and that kind of stuff. And just being able to say like, hey, we relate to you. If you think at a high level, the branding ads that you're going to put out to your customers are going to be very different than the branding ads you're going to put out to your potential customers. So now no longer do you have to do the same thing. Customers love nothing more than to feel special. So this is the opportunity to make them feel special, make it feel like you're talking directly to them, and just saying like, hey, we get you. And
I think a few of the other things that we've seen even more recently is being able to adapt the idea that, hey, not only is this now a way that we can target, but it's been massively adopted, right? So in the last 5 years, let's say, connected TV's been around 10 years, right?
Yeah, 10 years or so,
from the kind of start TV started coming out there, and ad-supported television was being consumed. But in the last, 3 to 5 years, the meteoric rise has been, we've all experienced it, right? When you think about what was the last television show you watched? 70% of us, it was probably something streaming. And as it stands today, connected TV has access to 85% of all households in the US in any market. And it represents over 50% of all television consumed hour for hour, minute for minute, every day across the country. 70%, and that's more than cable and broadcast combined, right? When you think of it that way. Beyond that, 50% of Americans consume ad-supported connected television streaming on a daily basis, and over 70% do on a regular basis, which was like once within a week at least, right, at a minimum. So reach is there, access is there, consumption is there. So now it really becomes down to who do you want to target, what's that audience, and then what do you want to say? And the big thing on the creative side that I would say is that different than maybe a pre-roll, mid-roll ad video display online where you have to get attention in 5 seconds, right? To get any sort of a click through. While CTV large format, like a living room quality, isn't necessarily clickable. It is in some cases, but it isn't always clickable. You do have that 15 or 30 seconds uninterrupted. So when you have that chance to tell your story, then the question is, what are you asking them to do? Right? It's not just, hey, let's repurpose our social video ads. Let's repurpose our pre-roll ads. No, you have 30 seconds to tell your story, and then you get a very specific moment to ask them to do something. And we're seeing the brands and advertisers who take advantage of that and write creative, and their creative teams embrace that. Conversion rates go through the roof with those sort of things.
Oh, crazy. Yeah. Especially with, and not to say like you can't throw a QR code on a linear TV commercial, but I think with connected TV, it's just like you said, those brands and teams that are embracing the technology. So putting the QR codes up there, really leaning into the reporting. One of the things I also think, when we used to do traditional TV, you'd buy like per the flight, and then it was just kind of like, it is what it is. Now, and I know we do it a lot with our clients. I mean, you can monitor it the entire time. So it's always on. You're always checking this reporting. And so there's so many times that we're like, okay, pivot, something's not working. Let's figure it out. Or let's do a quick test and see which call to action is going to work better. And it just makes, we always say data-driven creative around here. That's, a pretty picture is a pretty picture unless it gives you results. And if it doesn't give you results, it's not good design, honestly. And so it really helps inform the design in a unique way that we've never seen with TV before. So I think that's one of the, exciting parts too. And just taking into consideration, like you said, the call to action, referencing back, like what you're going to tell your customers to do, your loyal customers, is going to be very different than what you tell a potential customer to do. They have to learn about you. They have to build the trust. Your customer, they're so far down that funnel, you can get them to scan that QR code and probably purchase before the commercial break ends.
And also 70% of CTV consumers, which what I would say, let's just say television in general, they dual screen, right? You watch TV, but you also have your phone right here or in your hand. And 70% will actually, and we're all guilty of this, the minute you see an ad, that's interesting, right? Even if you see a QR code, you most likely just pull up your phone and look them up. Right?
Most of us probably just type it into the URL.
Right. So the other opportunity that's neat across, we've talked a lot about bigger retailers, right? Typical advertisers, as we have known and think of them from television. But CTV now also has opened up the opportunity for maybe non-traditional television advertisers to take advantage of television advertising. So think of like technology companies and B2B companies that service business owners. So targeting the homes of business owners. Ad tech companies and marketing tech companies.
A big one that's gone into the CTV space recently that I'm sure we all are aware of is Salesforce. So they've gone into the CTV space kind of recently and actually built their own streaming channel.
Because now you can actually target and promote to the individuals, your prospective buyers, or in their case, end users. Which they wouldn't necessarily want to do to all Americans, right? Cars.com, different question, right? You want to be in front of everybody 18 plus who has an American dream to buy a car one day. But now you actually have the ability to build those audiences out specifically. And I think that the next biggest opportunity from a creative aspect is measurement, right? Was what you were saying. So being able to actually test and measure and being able to watch. You don't have to have a scan code now to be able to measure if somebody grabs their phone and goes back to your website and takes an action or looks something up. So you can really take advantage of the A/B testing. And you can do a lot of online testing, like online video testing and other video and creatives that you have tested to already inform the direction because it's similar audiences. But now with the ability to target them on the television, it really is a game changer when embraced. And it's now access points are at a level where you don't have to have a $20,000 a month budget, $1 million a month budget, to make it effective and to see the return on that.
Absolutely, and I mean, I know one of our clients in the past was Jockey, and they released the worry-free underwear line. And so naturally, that's a very segmented audience.
Very.
That's that's an age range, that's a gender specific. And I mean, just imagine having to spend dollars targeting to, especially when you're considering, the age at which someone's buying that stuff, sure, you start your period a lot earlier on, but that person's not buying it. You're targeting the mother. So I think there was so many different audience segments just to hit the right people that were going to be the decision makers. And I think that's where it becomes really exciting for creative teams is, who's the decision maker? Who am I actually talking to? I can actually talk to them, but maybe also relate to the people that are going to be getting that decision in the end too. So,
so actually, when we did the jockey placement, we did just that, right? It's like, who is this product for? Who do you want to reach? And they had their statistics and they knew what a normal product launch cost and their strategy to do that. But this was very niche product, right? So it wasn't just all women. It was a specific age group, activity level type of woman that they wanted to put this, they built the product for when they built their personas. And if they were to do a broadcast buy, it was out of the question, right? Because it's like 1 out of every, I think it was 75 women were a target for them. So that means 74 out of 75 ad dollars are wasted if you do normal traditional advertising. With connected TV, we're actually able to build a national audience that was pre-qualified as a persona target for the product. And in a 60-day run, we reduced their cost of acquisition by 6x compared to the normal product launch. And almost, it was entirely because the 100% of the budget went to connected TV so they could measure that. And I mean, the sole reason was because they built a creative to speak to a very specific audience, and every ad dollar went to put that ad in front of somebody who they had an opportunity to build a relationship with.
And I mean, just like, I'm just thinking through, like, if you were to try to even do that on linear TV, the amount of man hours that go into the research behind just trying to be like, okay, well, this audience maybe likes to watch Scandal at this time of day. And then again, like at the end of the day, you can build all of that. You can build that whole media buy. You can build, I know they like these shows. I know they, sometimes watch it here. Maybe they skip that show that day. Maybe they, an appointment comes up. Maybe they go to a design week event. But, and it just, then you're just crossing your fingers and you're like, man, I really hope they see that. And it's just really cool to me from a creative standpoint where it's like, no, I know my audience is going to see my creative. So I think that also on our end, puts in like, oh, my work is going somewhere. My work was worth it. It's actually going to connect. And then, the reporting at the end also, this huge for learning the next one. We say we talk about our process in a cycle always. So you're always learning from it. As creatives, we love to learn. We love to learn what we can do better next time. So I think that's a cool part about it too.
And the other really fun part is that from a design and a creative side is that it doesn't have to be a full production shoot, right?
No.
Like great motion graphics and clear messaging resonates 90% of the time better than more general, broad production shoots that cost 30 grand just to produce a commercial. Right now, with a clear intent, with a clear message from a brand, it's more about having that empathy and knowing who your buyer is to get the results, not how much money can I spend to get the wow factor on the commercial production.
Well, and I mean, in a post-COVID world now that a lot of people are working remote, a lot of people are working for these companies all over. Like you can't always fly everyone to a set location. It just doesn't, it's just not always feasible anymore. And rarely is it, I feel like. I mean, I would say most of the time you're working with assets that you have, you're trying to make assets. And I'm sure all of us on this call in the design world can relate to that, a budget constraint. Oh, like we want this giant commercial. We don't have the assets for that. Well, it's just a lot, it's a lot easier to make something really effective now. Cause again, you're specifically learning the audience and talking to them, and you're not trying to make these blown out productions. Unless you have, I mean, if you have that wiggle room, that's always fun. I mean, we love being on site. We love shooting. We're never going to say no to that. But a lot of times we have a client coming to us and they're like, we need something in 2 weeks. So, you can't necessarily fly to Florida or something for it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. So with that, I think we'll open it up to a few questions. Feel free to use the chat box. Brendan will kind of feed them over to us while he's looking for a few of those. I would say that there's a lot of controls with it as well, and throttles different than broadcast. So, or cable advertising, to where you can set your frequencies, how often you want to hit them. You can build sequences. Hey, I want my audience to see this ad first, and once they see that, I want them in a week to see this next ad, right?
Yeah,
so you can kind of storytell along the way.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's a great point. I think the great commercials that we talk about for years. The first one that comes off the top of my head is the notorious Apple TV one.
Yeah.
The ones that are really storytelling, or not Apple TV, but just Apple. They've just morphed into Apple TV for us here. But it's the really storytelling ones. And so now, like Alex said, like you can deploy the first part of a story and then the second part of a story and make sure they're seeing that sequentially, which is just such a cool aspect to think about, that you can tell your brand story. And again, you're not restrained to that 30 seconds anymore. You can use, 5 30-second spots to tell that full story and tell it really well, as long as if you're relating to them. I think the biggest misconception that I see in the design and creative world is that no one wants to hear your message, and I don't think that's true. I think that audiences want to hear your message if you're taking into consideration them. Like they want to hear it, they want to you to relate to them if it's worth it. So
everybody loves advertising. Like even if we say we don't, we do. What we don't like is irrelevant advertising.
Yeah, we don't like bad advertising.
Right.
So
which
is fair.
And there are the usual suspects in every medium. But I will call out, bigger brands, like I always call it when I'm working with a client or prospect, getting limu emu'd.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so there's a connected TV advertiser on the more humorous side of how many times in a row can you see the same ad, right?
Right.
You can control all those settings, and choosing the right CTV partner. Of course, that's what we do, but there are others out there. Is imperative to the success of that, because right now it is so fragmented that it is important to find a partner that understands the landscapes, has relationships with all CTV providers, and not just specific channels. Of course, Hulu has a great solution. Roku has a solution there. And they all are great within their own environments, but finding somebody that you can trust to work with is probably 80% of the success outcome of a creative team or an advertising team when they go into CTV and placing it, right? Because good advice, good relationship, and direction in a very fragmented and extremely fast-growing industry is important to have. Brendan, questions?
Got a question here from Lainey, entry-level designer here. What exactly do you mean when you say creative? Like when you say your potential customer will get to see your creative? Thank you.
Great question. So when we say creative in the CTV world, commercials is basically the translation of that. It's essentially the video commercials that you're thinking of, that you normally have associated with TV advertising forever. It's just the only difference is the way that it is delivered to you.
Right. Yep. Good.
So commercial, basically.
We have another one from Nathan. He asked, could you walk through the steps of creating an effective ad strategy?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It very specifically would need to be addressed by industry, by product, by audience, right? So the first questions you would ask when building that out would be, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, who's your audience? Are you launching a new product? Are you selling, are you trying to do product line expansion? So current customers, and they buy my outdoor wear, but now I want them to go buy the athleisure wear, right? So product line expansion. Or potentially it's a technology that you're trying to get consideration for in front of business owners. Once you'd identify that, right, then you would start to build that audience persona. From there, really connected TV, there are many strategies to leverage it, just as there would social ads, just as there would display ads, radio ads, print ads. But that's when we would sit down and start to craft, and anybody thinking about getting involved is, where does connected TV fit in that life cycle, in that funnel, in that sales funnel, from awareness and consideration at the top, to product consideration, to conversion down funnel. And there are different strategies to put in place along that line. The creative would then change, as should your messaging, as you bring people down the funnel. And then the other question that we would definitely always ask is, what are the other programs, advertising mediums that you're leveraging that are currently in place, right, that are going to assist in the total experience and brand message experience for a potential buyer or a new customer? Example of that would be if you already have a really great social team in place and you're trying to acquire new eyeballs, completely new to file customers, then we would build a program targeting the audience that has never purchased from you, but is qualified to purchase from you, meaning they fit that persona or they fit the income and the purchasing behavior that you would like to see as a customer, but disqualify any current buyers or customers that you have. And if you had a great social program in place, our goal would be, how do we get them to engage with the social? How do we get them to the website so that then your social can retarget and bring them back in for purchase, right? But we would take a look at anybody's total program and say, hey, how do we leverage connected TV, the budgets, the spend, and then what are you trying to get them to accomplish? And be very clear on the intent. And that's where creative, and I say this to every single advertiser that we work with, it's basically, I am selling you a billboard that I guarantee Tommy Jones and Susie Pegg are going to drive down and see it every day. What you say on that billboard is entirely up to you.
Yep.
I guarantee the visibility and I guarantee the audience, but what you say in the creative aspect of it will get a purchase or it won't.
Right? Yep. And I know we worked with a client in the past. I'll leave them anonymous, but they came to us with a commercial, and there was 4 different call to actions on it. And so when we asked them, what do you want them to do? And they were like, call that second number. We were like, okay, let's just pare it down to the second number then. Because there was 2 phone numbers, 2 email addresses. And so I think, once you move into the creative side, it's like, okay, what do we want them to do? And when you have 15 or 30 seconds to talk to somebody, you need to ask them to do one thing.
Yeah.
And it's, what is that one thing? And then from there, if that one thing's go to your website, now you've given them an avenue to explore your brand in a lot of different ways. And I think that's where a lot of messaging fails, is you're trying to tell them your whole brand at once, and you're not. A commercial is essentially an elevator pitch. It's what they have taught us all, through going through school or training or whatever, is what's your elevator pitch, and essentially why should someone care? So, and it's that one thing, just that simple is better in a lot of things, and that's especially true in CTV.
Yep, absolutely. Brennan?
Kendra asks, does this also include screens/TVs that are on gas pumps?
It does not. That's a good question.
Great
question. So this connected TV, they're basically, when we say CTV, it is large format, in-home, living room quality, as we all know and have experienced TV since childhood, right? There is an extension of that now with CTV, where a lot of people, and it's about 35% of all connected TV is viewed on a mobile or tablet, either dual screening, right? Or you're at the gym and you're watching and binging your shows, right? Or on your commute and you're watching the morning news on your tablet. Very common. We're all probably have experienced and seen people doing that. That's a very specific audience targeting screen when they're streaming television. Those screens that you see, maybe even walking through the mall or at a gas pump, those aren't audience targeted and they're not connected. What those are called is infotainment, right? Outdoor advertising, outdoor digital advertising, but the category is called infotainment. So yes, there's some information there, but it's also trying to entertain you, and maybe you'll buy a soda when you're at Speedway, right? So their audience is their target audience is whoever's on their property through that gas pump. And that's their intent with that. So those aren't connected in the sense that they stream regular television, traditional content, long format television, but have a great place if that's who you're targeting.
Yeah, and one note, as we're talking about that CTVX is what we've branded our solution to the mobile devices and the tablets. One note on that is, and I think as I mentioned, I didn't have a background in it before I came to the company with Alex and Reed and helped launch TriAD, but understanding the difference in the two. And at first I didn't understand why they would be sold separately. That didn't make sense to me. But now I have this great example I always kind of walk through is I went to Butler University. I'm a really big college basketball fan. My husband went to Indiana University. He's a really big college basketball fan. So we fight over the TV a lot. So we're in the same space. So we are actually one of those houses that is kind of watching on our phone a lot. So he'll be watching IU. Usually what we do is whoever's winning gets the bigger TV. But we're getting completely different commercials. We're in the same exact house, but he's on his CBS Sports app. I'm on our CBS Sports app, which is usually mine on our TV. So there's a potential and a likelihood we're getting completely different targeted ads, which is really cool to think about from a brand perspective, which is really, remembering that audience. I think so many times we can, when you're moving fast, you can be like, oh, just use the same asset. Just throw the same asset to CTV and CTVX, but you're really taking into consideration, he can click when he's on that phone. I can't click, maybe I need the QR code. So just taking into consideration those different environments that people are, watching and consuming and just the daily life around it, I think can really help you understand your audience at a much deeper level.
Brendan, any others? Excellent.
All right.
With that, Tori, set us off with a few things to keep looking for this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we have workshop nights tonight. I hope to see a lot of you guys there. We have a really fun night for us. Giacomo is serving up some pizza there. The bar will be open. Leah Trebet Productions, amazing photographer in town. She'll be there doing pay what you can headshots. So if you want to come dress a little nice, at least from the top up, bottom doesn't matter. You can grab some headshots there. Lincoln Lou will be there doing some permanent jewelry. I'm going to pop by and get myself a permanent bracelet while we're there. And then tomorrow we have First Draft Showcase. We have some really cool presentations lined up. We'll be diving in, looking at presentations from a different perspective. So rather than seeing the final product, we'll be looking at the drafts first and looking at the sketches and walking through the different processes. We have a logo designer coming with us who did the Indy 11 logo. We have a fashion designer and an interior architect. So looking at the different design processes from, from the draft stage. And then we have our keynote speaker, Tiffany Sauter from Element 3 will be speaking on Friday. And then we have the big first ever design and art market on Saturday. The vendor spots sold out for that. So you guys have an awesome lineup of vendors, artists, makers, designers, selling their stuff. So come out, hang out at the Stutz. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. I think it's going to be 80 and sunny. So yeah, just come hang out at the Stutz. Beautiful building that Delve talked about earlier today they did the renovation for it. So we've got lots of crossing paths in Indie Design Week and lots of cross industry stuff, but yeah, we'll be around in virtual talks all week long. So feel free to, registrations are open for that. Actually, I got a question about that earlier today. So registrations are still open for virtual talks. So yeah.
Excellent. Great. Well, appreciate everybody joining. Have a great week and hopefully we'll see you at a few of these events.
Yeah. Thanks guys. See you tonight.